Hello everyone, it's me again, Joseph, your host, and welcome back to our channel. It's days after the joyful celebration of Christmas. The church calendar takes a sudden, solemn turn. On December 28th, we commemorate the Feast of the Holy Innocents, a day that confronts us with one of the most tragic events in the Christmas story. It's a day of remembrance for the very first martyrs of the Christian faith, innocent children who gave their lives for a king they never knew. So, what is this feast all about, and why is it so important? Let's dive into the history, traditions, and profound meaning behind the Feast of the Holy Innocents. The story begins shortly after Jesus' birth in Bethlehem. The Gospel of Matthew tells us that wise men, the Magi, arrived in Jerusalem seeking the newborn king of the Jews. This news deeply disturbed the reigning monarch, King Herod the Great. Herod was a notoriously paranoid and ruthless ruler, obsessed with maintaining his power. The thought of a rival king, a Messiah, being born in his territory filled him with what Matthew describes as a manic fear. Herod cunningly met with the Magi, telling them to find the child and report back, pretending he also wished to pay homage. But the Magi were warned in a dream of Herod's true intentions and returned to their country by a different route. When Herod realized he had been tricked, his fear turned into a furious rage. He gave a chilling order to kill all male children aged 2 and under in Bethlehem and its surrounding areas. This brutal act, known as the Massacre of the Innocents, was his desperate attempt to eliminate the infant Jesus and secure his throne. These children, caught in the crossfire of a tyrant's fear, are who we honor as the Holy Innocents. They were innocent of any crime, their only offense being born at the same time and in the same place as the Savior. But the Church sees their deaths in a holy light. St. Augustine famously said they died not only for Christ, but in his stead. They are considered martyrs because they were killed out of hatred for Christ, even before they could confess his name with their mouths. This is why the liturgical color for the day is red, the color of blood and martyrdom. The Gospel of Matthew sees this horrific event as a fulfillment of a prophecy from the Old Testament, from the prophet Jeremiah. It says, "A voice is heard in Ramah, wailing and loud lamentation, Rachel weeping for her children. She refuses to be comforted, because they are no more." Rachel, the matriarch of Israel buried near Bethlehem, is depicted as weeping for her descendants, embodying the profound grief of the mothers who lost their children. You might be wondering about the historical accuracy of this event. It's true that the Massacre of the Innocents is only recorded in the Gospel of Matthew. Other contemporary historians like Josephus, who documented many of Herod's atrocities including the murder of his own sons, don't mention it because of this. Many modern scholars view the story as a theological narrative, rather than a strict historical account. They suggest it was written to draw parallels between Jesus and Moses, whose life was also threatened by a pharaoh who ordered the killing of Hebrew baby boys. The story powerfully frames Jesus' birth, not just as a moment of peace and joy, but as an event that immediately confronted the world's darkness and violence. Regardless of the historical debate, the spiritual and theological significance is immense. As Pope Francis said, the Christmas story is accompanied, whether we like it or not, by tears. The birth of Jesus wasn't a fairy tale, escape from reality. It was an entry into a world filled with tragedy and injustice. The cry of the mothers of Bethlehem, as the Pope noted, echoes today in the cries of so many families who suffer for their innocent children in a world still plagued by violence, war, and poverty. The Byzantine Rite liturgy asserts 14,000 holy innocents, while an early Syrian list of saints asserts 64,000. Coptic sources assert 144,000, and that it took place on the 29th of December. Frederick George Holweck's 1910 entry on the subject in the Catholic Encyclopedia referenced estimates that both assumed the event actually occurred, and recognized that Bethlehem was too small a town to provide such numbers, reducing the victims to between 6 and 20 children in the town. Richard T. France, citing estimates that Bethlehem's population would have been around 1,000 people at the time the event was supposed to occur, concurred with an upper limit of around 20 children killed, if it was indeed a historical event. The Feast of the Holy Innocents is known by a few different names. In Old English, it's called Childermas. Just like Christmas is the Mass for Christ, Childermas is the Mass for the children. The name itself shows how deeply this commemoration is rooted in Christian tradition. The liturgical observance of the day has evolved. Historically, the color was violet, symbolizing mourning for the children and sympathy for their mothers. The Gloria and Alleluia, chants of joy, were often omitted from the Mass. In modern times, the focus has shifted to their martyrdom, so red is now the prescribed color. Interestingly, there's a special case in the Catholic liturgical calendar. If December 28th falls on a Sunday, as it will in 2025, the primary celebration is the Feast of the Holy Family of Jesus, Mary and Joseph. However, the Holy Innocents are still remembered within that celebration, reminding us that the Holy Family's own flight into Egypt was a direct consequence of Herod's violence. They became refugees to protect the life of the Christ child. Over the centuries, fascinating cultural traditions have sprung up around this day. In Spain and many Latin American countries, December 28th, or Dia de los Santos Inocentes, is a day for pranks and practical jokes, similar to April Fool's Day. The jokes are called inocentadas, a playful twist on the word innocent. It's a way of turning a day of sorrow into a moment of lightheartedness, perhaps reminding us that life and laughter triumph over tyranny. In other cultures, the day is very child-centric. Some Old English traditions, the youngest child in the family was allowed to rule the day, choosing the meals and activities. In Trinidad and Tobago, a beautiful custom exists where children bring their new Christmas toys to Mass to be blessed, connecting the joy of childhood with the sacredness of the day. However, there was also a darker folklore associated with the day. In medieval England, Childermas was considered an unlucky day, a dismal day when it was bad luck to start a new project, get married, or begin a journey. So, why do we continue to observe this somber feast right in the middle of the joyful Christmas season? It serves as a powerful and necessary reality check. It reminds us that the coming of Christ into the world was not universally welcomed. From the very beginning, his presence exposed the darkness and fear that resides in the human heart. The story of the Holy Innocents shows us that the battle between good and evil, life and death, began the moment the Savior was born. Today, the Feast of the Holy Innocents has taken on a new and urgent meaning. It has become a day of advocacy for all vulnerable children. Christians around the world use this day to pray for the unborn, for children suffering from war and famine, for victims of abuse, and for all young lives threatened by the Herods of our own time. The silent witness of these little ones from Bethlehem echoes through to millennia. They are the first buds of martyrdom, as an ancient hymn calls them. They teach us that greatness in God's kingdom isn't measured by power, speech, or great deeds, but by closeness to Christ. They were the first to share in his suffering, and therefore, the first to share in his glory. Their feast day calls us to protect the dignity of every single human life, from the moment of conception to its natural end. It challenges us to build a world where no child has to suffer from the tyranny of power or the indifference of society. The Holy Innocents, through their silent sacrifice, proclaim a profound truth that even in the face of unspeakable tragedy, God's plan of salvation prevails. Their story, forever intertwined with the joy of Christmas, reminds us that light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not and will not overcome it. Thanks so much for watching. If this reflection was meaningful to you, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that explores the depth of our faith. And we all be inspired by the Holy Innocents to be courageous protectors of life. Take care, everyone. Stay safe and healthy as usual. See you next time, and God bless you always.